Hello, everybody, and welcome. I'd like to thank you on behalf of Sovereign Group for joining us today from wherever you are in the world. Just a couple of things to take you through, a bit of an introduction before I hand over to the team. The session is being recorded, and so the recording and the presentation will be able to be shared with you once we conclude today. We will have a couple of poll questions that will launch throughout the session. So please do engage with them and give us some feedback and some answers, because we would also like to get to know you a little bit better. We are also opening the chat room to ask any questions in which the team will get to you and answer as many of those questions as possible at the end. So a bit of an introduction to Qatar Financial Centre. Much like other financial centres across the region, Qatar Financial Centre, QFC, has been a real keen area of interest for a lot of our clients, but then also intermediary partners. So our team is very much looking forward to talking to you today about QFC and basically how you can enter QFC and sharing practical insights as to the incorporation and post-incorporation journey. So just to give you a little bit of a background as to what to expect from today's session, we will go through an overview of the Qatar market, an introduction to Qatar Financial Centre and its key advantages, how QFC will support you with market entry, some of the corporate and private client structures that are available within QFC, licensing and setup process, and then some case studies as well. So it should be really interesting. And then our wonderful speakers today are based in Qatar, in our Qatar team. It is Nadia Dali, who is our operations manager. And then alongside her presenting is Hussein Hachem, who is our senior business development manager. So you are in really good hands with the team presenting here today. And I'm going to hand over to Hussein to take you through.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Bianca, for introducing us. In my part, I'll be giving you a brief overview about Sovereign Group in general, about Qatari market, about opportunities available, how QFC can support your business setup and expansion in the region. I'll keep it practical and focused. So, Sovereign Group is an international corporate provider with over 30 years of global experience. We have been present in GCC since 1998, almost 28 years. And we have strong understanding of the region, both from regulatory and business perspective. Present in Qatar, by the way, since 2010, like almost 16 years. So today we have stronger presence even across all GCC, in Qatar, in UAE, in Saudi Arabia, and Bahrain, and Oman. And we are supported by a team of more than 100 professionals on ground. So beyond the region, we also operate across Europe, Asia, Africa. I would love if you have the time to go to our Sovereign Group, check where we do exist. So it allow our client it will help our client with their cross-border structure international expansion, because we operate in Africa and GCC, in Europe, and in South Asia and in East Asia. So from a licensing perspective, we work in Qatar. I assume everybody knows about the mainland, the Ministry of Commerce, about the Qatar Financial Centre, about the free zone, the QSTP, but we will be targeting QFC specifically these days. So we provide end-to-end support from company setup, structuring, operating, compliance, and advisory. Today, we support over 20,000 clients globally, with assets under administration exceeding 20 billion pounds, which reflects both our scale and our trust that clients are giving us. Let's take a closer look. Let's take a closer look at Qatar as a market and why it continues to attract international businesses. So historically, we already know that Qatar has been strongly supported by the oil and gas sector, which has provided stable, resilient economy and made it a safe and reliable place to do business. While in recent days, practically after 2020, the government has been actively driving diversification in line with the Qatar National Vision 2030. I'm pretty sure you all heard about the National Vision. So this has led to development of multiple sectors beyond oil and gas. They don't want to be any more dependent on oil and gas. So they were trying to develop other sectors, including services, consultancy, manufacturing even, hospitality, logistics, technology, And of course, the sports-related industry. We have already noticed how they are trying to highlight the sports industry and all related services, sports services. So at the same time, there is a strong pipeline of ongoing and upcoming projects. We can notice this tenders are everywhere. So especially in infrastructure development, even after World Cup, the market has remained active and continue to grow to grow within time. So as a result, we have noticed that there is increasing demand for international companies that can bring expertise to Qatar, that can bring innovation and specialized type of services. What does that mean? For business, so this means lower risk compared to many other markets, maybe more long-term opportunities, maybe steady pipeline for the projects. So overall, Qatar is an active, growing market with a strong demand for companies that can add real value. Moving to the market opportunities and challenges. So we are seeing strong growth in service sectors like consulting, like technology, like fintech, and AI, and all over the place and in the whole world, not only in Qatar. But we have seen that there is strong presence for seats in that type of fintech and AI. So this is the, let's say, demand from one side, from one side. From the other side, there is strong demand from both governmental and private companies, which create many opportunities for international businesses. So demand is there, the growth in such sectors also there. So this is good for specialized firm. What I mean that in Qatar, companies usually look for specific skills rather than general services. For example, firms in AI, maybe data analysis, digital marketing, or any project management in general are high in demand because they offer focused expertise. So in other words, there are good business opportunities and the market is not yet crowded. So if you compare to all GCC, Qatar market is not yet crowded. This is very important thing to highlight. And because there are fewer competitors, while the demand is already there. So it's a big advantage for companies entering early, right? However, so there are like some challenges which might appear. So in traditional setups like the mainland setup, and it might need in some business activities that you need a Qatari sponsor for some restricted activities. In mainland, you might need to have an authorized signatory from the early stage being resident in Qatar. And this is a really challenge for international and foreign investors. So how can we address such challenges? So I think it's important from the early stage, my understanding, it's important from the early stage to choose the proper setup. Is it mainland? Is it free zone? Is it QFC? Because choosing the wrong structure can slow you later, right? For example, like let's say that if you have chosen the wrong activity, the wrong authority, you have to restructure them later, right? And if things are not planned properly from the start, companies may need to change the structure or maybe start a new entity and liquidate the old entity. So which increase time and cost. So the key is to start with the right setup to avoid delays and extra costs. Let me now briefly explain what is Qatar Financial Center. We are speaking at QFC. What is QFC? So QFC is an onshore platform within Qatar, designed mainly for international business looking to set up and operate in the country. So it is similar if you know like ADGM in Abu Dhabi, DIFC in Dubai, it's similar. And even similar to international hubs like Singapore, Hong Kong. So many international companies will find such type of authority familiar and easy to work with, right? So one of its key strengths is that it has its own independent legal regulatory system based on common English law, and which is something many international businesses are more comfortable with. The QFC QFC also allows companies to operate both locally in Qatar and internationally. Why? Because they follow base common law principles, right? So this gives flexibility in how they structure their operations. So why does that matter? Because it provides more structured and efficient way to enter the market. Today, we have noticed that there is like more than 4,500 registered firms under QFC, which shows strong confidence in the platform itself. It also offers clear legal system, strong regulatory framework, and business-friendly environment. And this make it, of course, practically and reliable. Let's highlight some of the key advantages of the QFC. So starting with ownership, the main concern for all investors. One of the biggest benefits is that it allows 100% foreign ownership. This means there is no need for local sponsor, and you have the full control over your business and decision. From a legal perspective, QFC, um, the common law system at QFC make things clear and more familiar with international companies because it follows, again, the common law principles. So when it comes to set up, the process is straightforward. The structure is flexible. This means it can grow and adapt as your business develops within time. So overall, QFC combines full ownership, clear legal framework, and flexible setup process. Moving forward to tax and operational benefits. So the corporate trade tax in Qatar is 10%. In Qatar in general, apart from the free zone, is 10%. And at QFC, it's 10%. The corporate trade tax is 10%. And it only applies to profit generated within Qatar, not the international business, which can be efficient depending on the structure itself. So profit can be fully repatriated, means that you can transfer fund out of Qatar without restrictions. And this is very important compared to other jurisdictions. In addition, there are no currency restrictions at QFC, and companies can operate in multiple currencies, maybe euros, maybe dollars, maybe Qatari, so which is very useful for international businesses, especially these businesses that they have international presence in different regions. So overall, this creates a simple, flexible environment. Let's talk about flexibility and how QFC structure is used in practice. So one of the main advantages is that you don't need to set up a separate company for each activity. If you had the time to go, I'm sure you have the time to go to see the QFC portal. It's very friendly, user friendly, and you can see that there are like some regulated, non-regulated activities. So and it's easy for companies to select couple of activities. No need to have additional separate licenses. For example, a company can provide, let's say, consultancy or project management, and they can combine, let's say, consultancy with technical services or with project management under the same structure because they follow under the same cluster. So they have like groups of activities. If the activities fall under the same group, so you can combine activities, you don't need to do multiple licenses. So it allows you to grow over time. No need to adjust activities. No need to have additional license. You just maybe add activity, change activity without needing to create a new company each time, which is very good. So in simple terms, you start one structure and you build it as your business grows. We also see holding structures used to manage investment or international operations and hold assets and intellectual property. So I'm giving you like some examples. In consultancy, companies often combine advisory plus management plus project services under one entity, which is doable. For example, in tech companies might offer maybe digital marketing, for example, tech solutions, maybe system integration solution within the same setup, because again, they fall under the same cluster. And finally, many firms use the QFC as a regional base to coordinate and manage activities across different jurisdictions. They use it as a headquarter in a way or another. So overall, it is flexible structure that support different business models and allow you to growth smoothly. Let's have a quick overview finally on the governance and investor confidence and why it is important when entering a new market. Why these governance and investor confidence important for the investor. So in QFC, there is a clear regulatory structure. QFC authority handles licensing. There is like QFC authority and the regulatory structure. The authority itself, it handles licensing and commercial matters, which is not non-regulated activities. I'm sure my colleague will discuss this, elaborate further. While the regulatory authority system oversees the financial service firms, which are the regulated activities. That's why we have non-regulated activities and regulated activities. This separation ensures transparency and proper oversight. From a legal perspective, the QFC has its own independent court and dispute resolution system itself. So which gives businesses confidence when it comes to contracts and legal matters or disputes or whatsoever the case was, the legal case was. So overall, the framework is clear, well structured, aligned with the international standards, which all the international businesses seek for, right? So this creates a stable, reliable environment for the business and for the investor itself. And this is why we can see that many international companies choose QFC specifically as a trusted platform to establish and grow their presence in the region, in Qatar, of course, and in the region. So at this stage, thank you for listening. I'll hand over to my colleague Nadia, who will walk you through the setup process, and she has a practical case study.
Thank you, Hussein. So I'll start by giving a quick overview on how company formation is in the QFC working. It's divided into three main stages. The first one, we will have the information and documentation phase. This is where we will define what the business activity will actually do and choose the right legal structure like LLC, or it will be branch office or any other type of entity. We will be also confirming who will be involving in the company, including shareholders, directors, secretary, and UBOs. So this stage is important from compliance perspective. Then we will be collecting some of required documents for the incorporation, which will be the IDs if they are resident in Qatar, CVs, the business plan, along with the proof of address. This is very critical. The business plan as well will be requested. The next, we will go to the pre-approval stage. Here we will be submitting an initial application through the QFC portal to confirm the activity is permitted and there's no additional requirement. We'll also reserve the company name and validate the ownership and the structure of the company. At this point, we will get the pre-approval for the office space and finalize the business plan, including the financial projection. If the activity is regulated, this is where the regulators will get involved and they request additional requirements. Finally, after the approval at this stage, we will move to the licensing and registration. This is the final step where we will be submitting the full application and completing the due diligence. Once we receive the approval, the company will receive its certificate of incorporation along with the company license. And at this point, the company is fully set up. We'll move to the next post-incorporation. So once the company has been established, there's several steps required to launch the business and ensure its ongoing compliance. From operational perspective, so we will need to appoint the SEF. This appointed SEF will receive an access to the QFC platform. This platform is dedicated for his company only. And you will be required to complete the remaining post-incorporation, which is the issuance of the establishment card, along with the confirmation of the commencement date. From compliance perspective, it is important to appoint an auditor at the early stage, and this is a mandatory requirement from QFC. Also, he will need to make sure that the business operates strictly within the scope listed in his company license. Then, after that, we will need to make sure that all the filings and annual returns are being reported and filed within the portal. And if there is any changes within the structure or changes of director or address or any, it needs to be formally updated to avoid any penalties and fines. We'll move now to our key roles in the QFC. So we have three main key roles. We have three positions, which are the director, the company secretary, and the SEF. The director is the person, or it could be a corporate as well, who will be provide an overall oversight in the company. So this person, it could be an individual holding a passport number as well as a Qatar ID, but it's not mandatory. It could be also a corporate. Next, we will have the secretary, who will be responsible to ensure and meet all its legal and regulatory obligation. This position as well doesn't require residency in Qatar, and it could be an individual person also a corporate. Finally, we will have the senior executive function. Here we're talking about the SEF. This is a very important role because this person will need to be present in Qatar. He will also handle the day-to-day operations and act as the main point of contact within the QFC company. And he will be also ensuring that everything is complying with the regulation. For this role, the Qatar residency is mandatory. It will help to demonstrate real business presence. Technically, the SEF will be authorized, like the authorized signatory for the full entity. Also, he'll be responsible for the corporate bank account in Qatar and for all the employees. Just to add that some roles could be handled by the same person, like the director and the SEF, or like the SEF and the secretary. We'll move to now to the types of the activities. So here I want to simplify how activities in QFC are broadly categorized. Everything falls into either regulated or non-regulated activities. And this is really important because it determines the level of approval and the oversight required. Starting with the regulated activities. These are typically financial services and requires approval from the regulatory authority. This includes areas like banking, financing, investments, and asset management. So mainly it will most likely fall under the category which require an additional engagement. On the other hand, we will have the non-regulated activity, which are generally more straightforward for the setup. These include professional services like legal, accounting, taxes, ITs. It also covered corporate structures such as holding company and SPVs. I want to add that for even non-regulated activity, there's certain requirement that also the clients will need to meet, and there's some additional approvals will be required for the designated or the chosen business activity. We'll move now to the entity types. We have several entity types under QFC, but the most common used one is the limited liability company. We'll have also the branch offering company. Specifically for the branch offering company, they will follow the parent company rules, but they will not be subjected to all regulation of QFC. We have as well the holding companies, the single family office, limited liability partnership, among the others. Just to add that for each type of entity, it has its own requirement, which will be defined by QFC at later stage on the incorporation. Now we will move to our case study. Here we will be discussing an individual investor who is seeking to centralize his ownership of multiple entities at an international level. And also he would like to manage all his investments in more efficient way. Initially, the client was planning to establish a management consultancy company under MOCI. However, following further discussion, it became clear that his primary objective is to hold assets rather than engage in an active operation. This structure under the MOCI would have introduced certain risks and include regulatory and banking challenges for him, as well also as a long-term structural inefficiency. Based on this and after careful consultation with him, we recommended the solution that he need to establish a holding company under QFC. So this has been accepted by the client because it meets his future plans. Now we will move to the same case and the timeline which we needed for the incorporation of this holding company. The first day we had like the client handover, which is from the consultation stage into the operation stage. Within 24 hours, we have completed the client onboarding, where we collected as well any documents we needed at the stage of the onboarding. Within 24 hours as well, the next day, we submitted the expression of interest within QFC. So for QFC, after submission of expression of interest, they are quite fast in terms of response. So we received the response of the approval like within 24 hours. Then the initial approval, it came within 10 days. Within this period, we have managed to secure the office space. We have confirmed the business plan. We confirmed as well the shareholding structure and the UBOs, along with submission of the business plan and financial projection. Within 2 days from the first pre-approval, we obtained the final approval, and the client has received his license via email. And also, he received the email for the post-incorporation stage. So everything for the QFC has been completed within less than 15 days, this is great comparing to the other type of the entities. To conclude, we will move to our next slide. So I'd like just to highlight some key advantage of QFC, additional to what my colleague Hussein has said. So QFC, it offers a stable economic environment that supports long-term growth, along with a clear and supportive regulatory framework. It also provides operational flexibility while maintaining a high level of regulatory and certainty. In addition, the business benefits from access to a skilled and international talent pool, as well as simplified registration and operational process, which also will enable a faster setup and improved overall efficiency. Finally, Qatar Financial Centre offers a strategic access to regional and global financial hub, supported by a strong legal and regulatory framework that enhance overall business confidence. That brings us to end of our presentation. Thank you everyone for joining us.
Thank you, Nadia. Thank you, Hussein. Yeah, I don't see any questions. Oh, actually, sorry, some are coming through now, but I have seen that in response to the poll that a lot of people are just looking to kind of do general research and learning at this stage. So yeah, thank you for a very comprehensive overview of QFC. We do have one question here from Marvin. For a non-regulated company that could incorporate in both zones, what are the pros and cons of incorporating in QFC versus QFZ? As far as I understood, QFC is 10% corporate tax, while QFZ is 0.
Yeah, allow me to answer, Marvin. Hi, Marvin again. Both support the 100% owner ownership, but I would say it depends on the business activity. Why? Because we have noticed that Qatar Free Zone only license type of trading activities, logistics, manufacturing type of activities. They don't license service-based activities. For example, let's say that you have a business of management consultancy. Qatar Free Zone, they don't license any service. So by default, they don't license management consultancy. So you have to go to Qatar Financial Centre. See the difference? While if you have trading, Qatar Financial Centre doesn't license any trading or manufacture or logistic type of activity. They push you to Qatar Free Zone. So it's designed like this here in Qatar to avoid any competition between authorities.
Yeah. Okay. Good overview. Thank you.
This is the only difference.
Leah is also asking, what are the pluses of QFC if you compare to DIFC for international investors? I mean, they offer a lot of